Hi, my name is Matt DiGeronimo. Have you ever noticed how we love shortcuts when it comes to complex issues? We grab onto a buzzword like trickle down economics, wage gap, universal healthcare, and suddenly we're an expert. Remember the Dunning-Kruger effect that we spoke of a few videos ago? Well, here it is again. We simplify complicated problems down to one-line slogans, and when reality doesn't fit neatly into that box, we ignore it. So today, let's slow down and look at 10 common truisms or myths that aren't as true or as simple as you've been told. Now, before you get mad at me, stick with me. I'm not here to deny reality or push conspiracies. In fact, most of these myths have some truth to them, but the real story is a whole lot more interesting. So buckle up, my friends. Let's get into it with the top 10. Number 1, trickle-down economics is a myth. We've all heard this one before. Trickle-down economics is just a scam for the rich. But let's actually define what we're talking about. Does cutting taxes for the rich automatically mean everyone else gets richer? No, of course not. It's not magic. But does lowering taxes on the wealthy and businesses encourage investment, job creation, and wage growth? Sometimes, yes. Even liberal economists admit that investment-friendly policies help wages, just not always as evenly as we would like. So is it a myth? Not exactly. Is it oversimplified? Absolutely. Number 2, the rich don't pay their fair share in taxes. Look, nobody's crying for billionaires, especially me, but let's actually look at the numbers. The top 1% of earners in the United States already pay 40% of all federal income taxes. The bottom 50% pay less than 3%. The notion that billionaires are paying nothing, that's just not true. The real question is, are we taxing the right things at the right times? Now, could the system be fairer? Of course. Do billionaires use loopholes to dodge taxes? Of course they do. But the word loophole is in itself is a buzzword, isn't it? Isn't that just another way of saying navigating the laws as written? You want to fix? Demand a simpler tax code. Number 3, the minimum wage will lift people out of poverty. Now, this one's tricky because I get it. If you work full-time, you should be able to afford the basics of life. But raising the minimum wage doesn't always help the way people think it does. Raise it too high, and small businesses will just cut jobs, reduce hours, or automate. You know that self-checkout machine at the grocery store? That's your missing cashier, and guess what? It will never unionize. But the real fix for poverty isn't just setting a higher number, it's making sure our workers have skills that businesses need. Number 4, climate change will destroy the planet in a few decades. All right, pause right here. I am not about to say climate change isn't real because it absolutely is. What I am saying is that the doomsday timeline isn't exactly what the science says. The real issue is how it affects human societies, our economies, our food supply, our health, and our cities. The Earth itself, it survived asteroids, ice ages, and Nickelback albums. It's not going anywhere. The question isn't, will the planet survive? It's how do we adapt and reduce the damage? That's the discussion that we should be having. Number 5, universal healthcare will save money and provide better care. Healthcare, oh boy, here we go. Yes, universal healthcare increases access, but does it always mean better care and lower costs? Not necessarily. Countries with universal systems often deal with very long wait times, higher taxes, and rationed services. Just ask anyone from Canada or the UK, where people sometimes wait months and months for required surgery. So, should we fix the US healthcare system? Abso-effing-lutely. But thinking universal care is a simple fix ignores the trade-offs that come with it. Food for thought as an aside, even with universal healthcare, will those who can afford it be permitted to purchase access to higher quality care? Just a question. Number 6, economics is just about money. This one's a personal favorite of mine, although it's less commonly discussed and heard. Economics isn't really even about money. It's about how people make decisions. From why Starbucks charges more for fancy drinks to why traffic gets worse when a new lane is added. Economics explains how we react to incentives, changes, and decisions. So next time you hear someone say economics is just about greedy corporations, remember, it's actually about human behavior. Number 7, the gender wage gap proves discrimination. You've heard this stat. Women earn 80 cents for every dollar that men make. Let's add some color and context to that stat. That number comes from studies that do not factor in career choices, hours worked, or experience. When you compare men and women in the same job with the same experience, the gap shrinks to nearly zero. And in some cities, like New York City and Washington, D.C., women under 30 are currently out-earning men. And that's according to a very recent Pew Research study. So, does gender discrimination exist in the workforce? Absolutely in many places. But does this stat prove it? Not exactly. Number 8, gun control reduces crime. If banning guns automatically reduced crimes, cities like Chicago and Baltimore would be the safest places on earth. Instead, places like Switzerland, where gun ownership is high, actually are. The truth? Crime is driven by a mix of variables, including poverty, policing, and culture. It's not just about gun laws. Number 9, immigrants take jobs from Americans. Immigration, probably one of the most misunderstood and controversial topics out there. Yes, in some industries, immigration can push wages down. But immigrants also start businesses, pay taxes, take jobs Americans don't want, and drive economic growth. The real question, how do we manage immigration in a way that benefits everyone? And number 10, banning hate speech protects democracy. Sounds noble, right? Ban hate speech and protect democracy. But here's the problem. Who decides what counts as hate speech? Historically, tyrannical governments love to expand these laws to silence political opponents. These governments have never said, we are banning free speech. There's always a twist to make the decision sound reasonable and necessary. But the consequences rarely are. Free speech exists to protect uncomfortable opinions. Once we start banning those ideas, who decides what's next? So what's the takeaway here? Nuance matters. The world isn't black and white. It's gray, it's messy, complicated, and full of trade-offs. Therefore, before you dismiss your uncle at Thanksgiving for stating that trickle-down economics works, ask him to explain himself. Listen, reflect, and ask questions. You may be surprised. Remember, my friends, no one is coming to rescue us, but our curiosity will. My name is Matt DiGeronimo. Until next time.